Edmonton and Calgary, especially, you know, they are very much into hockey.
That's true.
Ice hockey. So they're always competing to see which is they say which is the oil capital of Canada.
Okay.
Yes. If the Oilers the team in Edmonton is the Oilers.
Yes.
The team in Calgary is the Flames. So they fight. I mean, it's usually quite some
among each other.
Yes.
Wow.
But when I was there, Canada, Edmonton was always leading. So it was good. Yeah. But it was good. Yes. So I was there. I went there, and then Herman was able to join me there.
Okay.
Yes. So we were there for 4 years.
Oh.
And then she did a master's degree in education, while I did. In fact, I did a master's degree and did a doctoral studies to the level of what they call a residency. I got my, I did all what they call all but dissertation.
Okay.
Yes, I could have completed my doctoral degree, my dissertation.
Yes.
But then, man, you know, I was already so sick.
Who were you?
I really had been away from the country for about 10 years. I was really, you know, my wife, my daughter was born there, and so I said, oh, okay. And I was having some problems, you know, not with my supervisor, Stephen Arnold, but with other professors around.
Okay.
Where when I wrote my project, you know, somebody would reject it for this reason, somebody would say this, you know, and I was really tired.
I can imagine.
Really, and I was just getting fed up. So I said, all right, I'm going to come back home.
Okay.
And, you know, work with Fonlon. But in the meantime, I met Fonlon in Calgary.
Oh, he came?
Yes, he came there. He was invited by the African Studies Association.
Good.
That was holding in Calgary at the time, just about a year before I left here.
Okay.
And I met him there, and you know, he and I, of course, we remained good friends.
I see.
We spent a good number of hours in his hotel lobby talking.
Okay.
And I told him my studies were not really going that well, and I was thinking of coming back home.
Yes.
And he said, okay, you know, why not come back? Completed with me at the University of Yaoundé, work, you know, finish your studies there, because it was a question of writing dissertation. And then you can go back and defend it in Edmonton, or you defend it in Yaoundé with your professor.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is what I thought I would do. So when I came back to Yaoundé,
yes,
things were not really good because, you know, it took me a while to get a job.
Oh my God.
And my wife too didn't have a job.
Okay.
And then finally I got a job here in Douala working for an American oil company.
Okay.
So I came over here, and then from there things just started, you know, going back to school again. And
exactly.
So I have an unwritten doctoral degree, dissertation in Edmonton for past 30 something years. Yeah, past 30 something years. I'm never really going back to it. And really, I didn't regret. One of the reasons I did not regret.
Yes, living.
Yes, not going back to school. Although sometimes I say, hey, maybe I should have completed my doctorate studies.
Okay.
But then when I started writing, and I started, you know, many of them, and I credit the University of Edmonton, University of Alberta,
yes,
and my Professor Arnold,
okay,
for really instilling in me the principle of what I call good writing. Taking care to write something and write it well. And they made me understand that I had something of a writer in me, okay, which I hadn't discovered, you know. Well, each time I wrote something, it was, oh yeah, this looks good, you know. Okay. I started publishing little articles in the university magazine. I think they call it the Gateway or something like that. Okay. You know, little articles which became really quite interesting. People started
reading them.
Yeah, reading them and appreciating them.
Okay.
And so, and when I came back home,
yes,
I ran into someone who was in the bilingual grammar school with me, a year behind me, Richard Nyamboli. Okay. He was the assistant editor in Cameroon Post. No, Cameroon Tribune. Oh, the English Cameroon Tribune. Wow.
Wow.
So I ran into him and I said, hey, Richard, listen, we hadn't met in years. So I said, hey, listen, I have an article. Will you want to see it? And he said, oh, yeah, sure. So I gave him something I had written. I think it was, I always remember that article because the world was celebrating the end of World War II.
Okay.
You see?
Wow.
And I said, well, you know, everybody's talking about World War II. Nobody's thinking about Africans who have fought in World War II. Because I knew somebody, one or two people in my village who had been, what they call them, ex-service people, who had fought in North Africa, one fought in as far away as Asia, then came back and they had never been remembered.
Can you imagine?
You see? So I wrote that was unfair.
Okay.
And Richard published it, and from there on, you know, I started writing quite a good number. And then somehow ideas just started coming. Yes, ideas just started coming. And so I created a university, my department of comparative literature, and my professor Arnold for getting me to know that I could write, and that writing was not something easy. Okay. Yes, because he kept telling me, yeah, this is very well written, but look at the number of times you have repeated this word. You know, for him it was, you know, if you use one word now, if the word comes up again, try it, get a synonym.
Okay.
Don't use the same word. And that's why sometimes when I make some remarks about what you have written, you know, I say, hey, you know, let me just tell this young man why.
Exactly.
You know,
I was so blessed. Thank you.
Many, you know,
those big words.
Yeah. and of course I understand that is something more or less personal. Okay. What is mine may not necessarily be yours.
Exactly.
Yeah. So sometimes when I make those things, it's more like suggestions. You know, you feel comfortable with what I've said. Yeah. You know, well, if you don't,
I didn't like those corrections.
You're quite free.
Because you're from a different angle. You know?
Yes,
it's good to
that's
listen
right.
to what people say. The reaction.
Yeah.
Because
sometimes you start writing something and you're so immersed in it, you don't see. You have to have a different pair of eyes looking at it where you
sees and says.
Yeah. And that is too something I got from Fonlon. Many of these things Fonlon wrote, he always told us that whenever he wrote something, he would put it, he used to call it, put it in the freezer for about 6 months. He said whenever he wrote something, he would want to keep it away for about 6 months. Then he would take it again and be reading it as if it was written by somebody else. That way he would see some of the errors that he would not have seen if he had done the revision immediately after he wrote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. 6 months.
That's what he said. Many of these things he wrote. He said, you know, I don't write something and just publish it immediately. You have to write them and I keep them.
Wow.
Yeah. I freeze them somewhere. Go back to it after about 6 months, if not more.
Wow.
And then he will, you know,
he
will now read it as it was written by somebody else and be able to spot some of those weaknesses which he would not otherwise have seen if he had just immediately gone. So it's something like that which I always also want to practice. It's not always possible.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, interesting. So you came back from Canada, you kept in touch with him?
Oh yes.
And
I came back and I was in touch with him. But when I came back, I think he had retired from the University of Yaoundé. Yes. But I remember one day, I wrote an article which the Cameroon Tribune published. And I forgot exactly what it was on. But it was about, did I call it the dearth in the sense that, the lack of, not dearth is D-E-A-R-T-H.
Okay.
It means not a good quantity.
Okay.
The dearth of critical literature or of critical work or critical writing in Cameroon or something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what it was. But then I wrote it, an article, and Cameroon Tribune published it. Wow. And Fonlon read it and called me because I mentioned him in there, I mentioned other people.
Okay.
And called me and said, "Oh, this looks good," you know, and so I kept in touch with him. Yes, and but when I came to Douala, it became a little more difficult.
That's true.
And then in 1986, you know, he went to Canada and passed. We met in Canada.
Okay.
83, 84.
Okay, you went to Canada again?
No, I was still in Canada. I came from Canada in 84.
Oh, okay.
You see?
I see.
Yes, because when I left Washington, D.C., I went to Canada.
That's true.
Yes, and spent some years there. Then he came to Canada. There was what they call the ACT, Association of Creative Teaching, which was a project between the University of Guelph and the University of Yaoundé. They used to call it the Guelph Yaoundé Project.
Okay.
I was in Edmonton.
Yes.
And one day I received a call from a very nice woman, Mrs. Cockburn, Liz Cockburn. She called me and said, "Well, this is the, you don't know me, but I know your brother, Kenjo." My brother then was in Laval, University of Laval in Quebec.
Wow.
Well, we have a project between Yaoundé and Guelph. And we want to organize a 1 week workshop. That's what it was. Yes. And would you want to join us? And I said, "Well, pay my way, whatever you have." And I said, "No problem."
Okay.
So I went there. I was in Guelph with my brother, Mr. Mbungwe, late Mr. Mbungwe, and one or two other Camerounais who were there.
Okay.
And for 1 week, we worked on the Guelph Yaoundé project. It was a project which was very revolutionary.
Okay.
We came to the northwest, to Bamenda, and had teachers and their students write their own stories. You see? Write stories, whether it's folk tales or whatever, you know, write stories. Okay. Which they got together
and published.
Yes, and then it was taken to Guelph, and we were called in to kind of give our views and do some corrections here and there. And those were published, and then we are being used to teach students in those schools. So it was very good.
Wow.
Yes. So I was there with them for a week. Okay. Then about a year later, they had a second meeting. This one was much bigger. Okay. Fonlon came from Yaoundé with one or two of his professors.
Here, Minister
Yaounde was there. She was a student in Auburn in I think Michigan. Okay. A doctoral program. Wow. And she joined us there. There was my good friend Charles Nama. He came. Unfortunately, he died quite young. He came to University of Boya. Was the head of the translation school there. Okay. Yeah. And there was also Siga Asanga. I don't know if you ever heard of Siga Asanga. He was one of those who launched this SDF thing, the party.
I see.
Yes. And one or two other people there. Yeah. So it was quite good. Fonlon was there. And to me, the highlight of it all was that Chino Achebe was there. Oh. As a student of African literature, there couldn't be anything more gratifying
than seeing Chino Achebe.
Spending a week with Chino Achebe. He happened to be there with Doc Killam, the head of English department, under which this ACT program was. Yes, and so he came there just to rest and was the guest of Doc Killam. And so Chino Achebe would drop in from time to time and talk to me. And of course, he and Fonlon had known each other for a long time. Okay. Yes, Fonlon always had the pride to say, "Oh, this is Chino, we met here, we met there in Nigeria, in Britain." Well, that's such a moment of great pride for us and for me as a student of literature at the time. Yes, student of African studies. So there was Fonlon, there was Chino Achebe, there was Doc Killam. We were their presence, and I was happy with that because when they called me for this one, I was in Edmonton. Yes. Well, my wife was, we already had our daughter.
Okay.
And I told him, listen, I'm not going to leave my wife and my daughter in Edmonton. If you want me to come over, make provision,
Exactly.
my wife to accompany me and my daughter.
That's true.
You see? So that's what they did. They said, okay, no problem. And my wife also participated in the discussions and so on, which was great.
Wow.
They made arrangements for my daughter to be taken care of.
That's good.
So we were there with Fonlon, and I think that was perhaps the last time.
You met him?
No, that's not true, because we were still there. When I came back to Cameroon, I met him before I came to Douala. It's when I came to Douala that my contacts with Yaounde and so on, you know. And then he passed on in '86. Yes. I remember a friend of mine actually met me. He used to call Fonlon Haydn.
Really?
Yes.
Why would you call him?
Yeah, that's a good question. Fonlon had a program in Radio Cameroon, classical music.
Exactly.
Yes. Classical
Mozart.
music. Mozart. And so the way he used to call Haydn, this young man kind of liked it. Haydn, you know, Fonlon had a baritone, you know, whenever he talked, his voice came out very powerfully.
Okay.
Yes, so
Wow.
the man came one day, here in Douala, you know, came and I was working in Bonanjo, came to my office and said, oh man, you know, Haydn is dead. I said, no, I said, what? They said, yeah, Fonlon has died.
Oh my
That
God.
was August of '86.
Yes.
It's quite shocking.
Oh my God.
Yes. So, you know, from there on, unfortunately, I was not able to
attend
the funeral. Yes. And,
Okay.
of course, I went. Each time I go to Kumbu, I go to his grave.
His grave.
Yes.
Okay. Brilliant.
That's right. So that is like my cheminement.
Yeah.
Friend
Yeah,
say,
parcours.
parcours with
With
Fonlon, yes.
Wow.
But he was a great soul. He was a great man.
Okay.
Yes.
So what impact, after having said all this, what impact do you think he left to especially the student-professor relationship?
You know, Fonlon was very much unlike a professor at the University of Yaoundé. Let me explain why. At the University of Yaoundé, one of the things that shocked us as students when we went there was that a French woman came to my class and told us from the first day,
yes,
je ne donne pas plus de 12,5 dans mon cours. Even before she started teaching. She said she could not give anybody 12.5 on 20. So whatever anybody wrote, it doesn't matter how good it was, the highest mark we could give 12.5.
Very discouraging.
But when you translate 12.5 into this ABC systems in
it's done. It's below grade.
it's almost a favorite grade.
It's very good.
But when you go to a university and I went to Canada and I said, you know, this 12.5 was actually the highest mark. They said, what sort of a school was giving somebody a C or a D grade? You know? But Fonlon was very much unlike that.
Okay.
If you wrote something and you deserve 18 on 20, Fonlon would give you 18 on 20. And he did that to a number of students. And I remember he had problems with some professors, especially Professor Mbase Manga, who was the head of the Department of English.
Okay.
You see, whenever Fonlon graded his students and gave them grades, Mbase Manga will go and cut the grade down. You can't give somebody 18 on 20, you cut it down to 14, 15, you know. You see?
Terrible.
So Fonlon said, no. If a student
deserves it,
if a student gives me what
I want,
and shows me that he has understood what I have given him, why should I not give him 18 or 19 or 20? Or even 20 on 20?
Exactly.
He did it. Yeah, that's what the student deserves. But it's very much unlike all other professors.
Yes. So that's the first lesson.
Oh,
the impact.
The impact.
He gave people what they deserve.
He gave people what they deserve.
That encourages
and he did not believe in failing students.
Okay.
He said, look, if you don't do well, something must have happened. You don't come and talk to me. Exactly. Why didn't you do well here? Okay. Meanwhile, other professors were they were too happy to say, hey, this is zero, it's done zero, that's the course. So, you know,
Can you imagine?
Fonlon will say, hey, what happened? Come and talk to me.
Very sensitive.
Yes.
To learn.
I remember one day in class, they were saying an article written by Du Bois, his great friend.
Yes.
And he called me one day to his office, you know, and gave me the article. He said, go read this article very carefully. What I want you to do is, you will be in class, and you are going to read it paragraph by paragraph, and we will discuss it paragraph by paragraph. So, you know, when it came to class, everybody was very surprised to see me sitting with Fonlon in front. And he said, well, I have this article, he's going to read it for you paragraph by paragraph. We're going to discuss it as he reads. You find anything there, just go. And so I read the article. You know, so that's one of the those things happen to you. A professor does that to you. It's not something you forget overnight.
No, you will never forget.
Yes.
Wow. So the relationship was a very cordial.
It really was cordial. I know. I did well in this thing. It's not that because he knew me.
Exactly.
No. I did not play with my studies. Whenever he gave work to do,
he did it well.
Very well, and he was impressed with my work.
Okay.
With the work of others too. But you know, I did not just sit around and say, hey, I know Fonlon, is my work with my brother. No, that was completely out of it. In fact, because of the relationship we had,
yes,
you know, it even made me work harder.
Not to disappoint.
Yeah, not to disappoint.
Exactly.
Yes.
And your brother too.
And my brother as well. Yes. So that was it. Okay. So those were the you know kind of the student professor relationship which I had.
Took great concern in the students.
Yes, he did. And you know he always was very particular about students understanding what he was teaching.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
actually get understood.
Yes. We were sometimes very much unlike what you had at the University of Yaoundé.
Wow.
Yes. You know. I don't know, you never studied out there, but sometimes it's nothing to be proud of. Yeah.
So grateful for this wonderful testimony.
Yeah, it's more, you know, like my personal contact with him. Yes. And I know that when I did not follow the path he had wanted to go, and I deviated to Spain, waiting for him to get me something. Because I remember well the day I told him I was going to Spain.
Okay.
You know.
1 second, I want to see if the battery.
Yeah, okay, sure. Maybe we're not even being recorded.
No, we are.
We are.
It's perfect.
It's good?
We are.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Just need to put it back up in case the battery runs down.
The battery runs down. There's kind of power bank or something.
Yes, that's it. But I bought the wrong cable. But it's good.
It's good, okay.
It's good. We have been doing well.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, in fact, I think you've done almost all that I can say about Fonlon.
Okay.
Yes. And also, because of my brother's been with him, I got to know his family, his sister.
His sister in Malaysia.
His mother.
Okay.
I never met his father. I think his father died quite some years before I ever met him. But I met him and his mother.
Very, very grateful for this testimony, which is really, really moving.
Well, I hope you can make something out of it. I'm wondering what you're going to do with all these massive.
You know, when I spoke when I contacted you about the publishing, I said, this book, I wanted to be an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a reference book for Fonlon. That's why, as large as it is, I'm thinking of 600 pages. And
I really hope you can get his pictures.
Yes. Did you have any pictures with him? In those days, picture taking.
No, right. Or something else in those days.
Oh.
Not really. No, I don't.
But I've been able to get many from Yaounde, from Professor Fonlon,
Okay.
and from the Abia.
Nabia, yes.
The Abia is a treasure.
Yes. If you were ever to go to North America, back to Canada, I don't know when you intend to go there.
Yes.
You should talk to Mrs. Lee Cockburn.
Mrs. Lee Cockburn.
Yes.
I mean, like her name.
Yes.
Who was she, by the way?
She's the one I talked about organizing, who worked with Fonlon for this Guelph.
Is she still alive?
She's still alive.
Oh my God.
Quite elderly, but she's very alert.
Okay.
Yes, Lee Cockburn. I will send you her, I don't think I have her number with me now. I have her number in my Canadian, in my
American number.
In my US phone.
No, very.
I have a Canadian, I have my
Guelph is not far from Toronto.
Yes, that's not far. In a few hours you are there. Yes, if you were ever to talk to her,
Okay.
she has actually been working on kind of a Fonlon biography.
Can you
So
imagine?
that is somebody you should really meet.
Okay, Mrs.
Liz.
Liz.
L-I-Z.
Okay.
Fonlon.
Is he?
Pardon.
Mrs. Lee Cockburn.
C-O-C-K.
Okay, C-O-C-K.
B-U-R-N.
Good, Cockburn.
Cockburn.
Wow, University of Guelph.
Where she's retiring.
Oh, she's retired. Yeah, that's true.
She lives in, I think, in Guelph, yes.
Okay, no, great to have. Thank you so much for that.
I will send you her phone number. She would be happy to.
Very excited. I can
Somebody
imagine.
you're working on this. Yes.
Well, thank you for all the wonderful recommendations and suggestions you have given to me all this while.
Yeah.
I was able to meet Professor Fonlon. Thanks for the advice. So thank you so much for everything you've done for this. So the legacy of Fonlon is not supposed to die.
No,
Not supposed to die.
but it's, when I saw that you were really into it,
Yes.
when you mentioned it, I said, people touch on this and then they touch and go.
Okay.
And I saw that you were really keen on it, which is really good.
Thank you.
It's good. Yeah.
The Fonlon should be very proud of you for having made it in life, and especially in the linguistic domain and with this wonderful institution promoting languages.
Yes.
And congratulations, really.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
So, any last words before we conclude this interview?
Well, last was that I'm really happy I could meet you.
Okay.
On a personal basis. You very much encourage you in your work.
Thank you.
Yes. You complete your studies successfully.
God willing.
When are you defending your thesis?
I was supposed to defend this summer, but it was postponed because of the COVID.
Your record.
So hopefully next time, yes,
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Yes. That's
You are around.
your doctorate.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I don't think I'll do that.
Never say never.
I wish I could, but yeah.
Okay.
So, and as I say, I've had many people even ask me,
Yes.
why haven't you done something on Fonlon?
Okay.
So,
What did they imply? Something like what?
no,
Could you have written not?
yeah, but it's quite a lot about him. Somebody said, why don't you just get a full-fledged book biography on him? Which I haven't been able to do.
Okay.
Yes. If you were ever, just now with the war and everything going upside down, if you were ever to go to the major seminary in
Bamboo.
Bamboo,
Yes.
I mean, I don't know.
No, I was told it's
They are very.
Oh, in fact, I wanted to go there because of the situation.
No,
I told have a room.
Yes, everything.
Oh my God.
Yes. Liz Cockburn was there for a good number of months working on you.
Wow.
I really want you to. Because I will send you a number so that when you go back to Europe,
Yes,
you can
I can
pick on the
contact
car.
her.
Yeah, tell her what you're working on.
Okay.
Yes, she will be quite happy. And tell her you made many.
Yeah, you recommend it. In fact, I'll send her the link of this interview. Many people don't know about Fonlon, Dr. Fonlon.
Yeah.
It's now that people are learning to know more.
Yes.